this week's episode of the Autohaus podcast.
I got a phone call from this big long number that I didn't even know where the country code was from. And it was D1, and they said, would I do Irwindale? And of course I said yes. And they said they would ship the car. They shipped the car one way to America. Me, my mom, my dad, my brother, we had all our money we spent on getting 16 tires from Falcon at the time. So that was all the money we had with us in America. So we had nothing left for the rest of the trip. Hello.
Hey, Darren, it's Ezekiel.
How's it going, Darren? It's Grant with Battle Grudge.
Yeah, so Darren, first of all, thank you so much for your time, man. I have your issue of the modified magazine out in front of me, and yeah, man, it's like, thank you so much for your time, and like it's like a privilege to be able to speak with you, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. There's no hassle. That must be quite a few years old now, that magazine.
Yeah, exactly. So June 2012, that's when this issue was published.
Jeez, it feels like longer, to be honest.
What's the state of this car right now?
I sold that car, believe it or not. I actually sold it. It went from the white and black, then it went fully satin black, then it went to a kind of an old school kind of pastel cream, and that was the last time it was out. And a customer of mine purchased just the chassis of the car from me, and I haven't seen it since.
Do you have a competition car in Ireland right now?
Currently, we're just finishing off my personal car at the moment. So it's a PS13, and we were lucky enough to get a World of Outlaw small block Chevy sprint car engine for it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're trying to get that finished. So it has all the bells and whistles. It has a G-force gearbox in it. It has a Winters quick change, drive shaft shop, axles. It's got everything that any professional level drift car would have, except we have no weight restriction in Europe, unlike Formula D. So it allows us to get a little bit adventurous, should we say, with the chassis. So it should be, I think it will be, from the calculations I've made without having it finished, it should be about 1,040 kilos, so about under 2,300 pounds, and hopefully it makes about 800 horsepower normally aspirated. So it should be, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We had the 2J in there. We had a 715 horsepower 2J, so that's on the dyno that we use, which reads quite low. So it's just a full built 2J. You couldn't really do much more to it. It was a 3 liter, so it was pretty quick with that. But it's just, this sprint car engine. So it's the same engine that we used in the Saturn Sky when we did Formula D, and then into the S14 after the Saturn Sky's untimely demise into the fence at Long Beach one time. And I was lucky enough to get the spare motor, and now I have that, so it fits in lovely with the lightweight ethos of the build rather than the big donkey heavy fucking 2J,
Oh, so is it mainly a weight and response thing?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that small block Chevy World of Outlaw engine, it's a 50k racing motor, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world altogether when you have an actual from the ground up race engine compared to anything. So it's, having 400 and something foot-pounds of torque at 2,000 RPM is quite a nice experience,
Mm-hmm.
A turbo 2J, no matter what you do, is going to have 100 foot-pounds of torque at that kind of RPM, so it's just, I guess I was just more used to it too, used to more throttle modulation rather than kicking the shit out of the clutch like a turbo car. It's just the way I got lazy, I guess, and I got spoiled with Formula D power. So but again, that's not the thing. It's the 4 cylinders in a row. It's the full alloy dart block. It's 100 kilos lighter, which right on the nose. You can't compete with 100 kilos less.
So I imagine that should let you do faster transitions and things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's like driving an SR20 Sylvia rather than a 2J Sylvia. This thing hopefully will change direction like a dog when it's finished. It should be the lightest. It's the lightest possible car that you could ever have without. The only thing else that I could do is get into mega like dry carbon composites, but it's not even worth it in a drift car. So it is pretty insanely light. I mean, it's pushing the rules big time from where we've removed all the metal and things like that. It's really, yeah, but it's cool. That's what we do. We build cars from the ground up. We like to do something different to every vehicle for our customer, something new, something out of my head, something off the wall, just individualize each car to each person rather than just banging out the same shit for everybody. We like to do it a little bit differently. You're always learning. You always want to do something differently the next time. The last car you build is the best car you've built. The next one will be better. That kind of way.
So, Darren, one thing I really wanted to find out on the podcast was you've been in the US drifting scene since before FD. And what I'd really like to know is how you've seen drifting change through, multiple decades already. I have a few dates written down. So, D1 Irwindale in 06, that's pre-FD. 2007 FD. And then your last year was, it looks like 2014. Does that sound right?
That's correct. Bang on.
Awesome. So all the way from the beginning, could you tell us how did that happen? D1 at Irwindale in 2006.
Well, we had the D1 guys here in Mondello Park in Ireland in 2006, I think, at the beginning of 2006. So we had McNamara and there was a couple of, I think Kazana was here. These are old school names now that maybe some people don't even recognize, but we had them here. They were doing a demo, and I debuted my Corolla at that event, which would have been the one that I went to Formula D in 2007, or the one that I took to Irwindale in 06, whatever that car. So yeah, I met them there, and then they had a driver search. You might remember the old days of the D1 driver searches when they went to the US and they went to the UK. They went to a couple of different places, I think, and they did a driver search to find people because unknown to us, they were doing like a D1 All-Star event and things like that for the end of 06. So I entered the driver search and I won it. And McNamara was judging it, so he was impressed enough to get D1 to get me to go to Irwindale. So D1 actually paid to send my car to Irwindale.
Wow.
Yeah, which was pretty insane. I'll always remember it. I was sitting at home playing the PlayStation actually, and Jesus, it must have been a PlayStation 2, I'd say. Which sounds it doesn't sound fun at all now playing PlayStation 2, but it was, believe it or not. So yeah, I got a phone call from this big long number that I didn't even know where the country code was from. And it was D1, and they said, would I do Irwindale? And of course I said yes, and they said they would ship the car. But funnily enough, they shipped the car one way to America. No, I had never been to America, obviously, at the time. And yeah, I mean, just you know how it is, chasing the dream. They were willing to ship it one way. It was up to me to figure out how to get the car home. But I mean, luckily enough, all the stars aligned, and we went and I think we finished like 5th on the first day, which was the actual last round of the D1 Japan Championship, which was on like the Saturday, and then the Sunday was the D1 All Star, I think, or whatever they called it, and we finished 6th on the Sunday after going, I think, one more times with McNamara, who actually won it. So it was an amazing experience. But I mean, long story short, we beat all the Formula D US drivers 2 days in a row, without even anyone knowing who we were. So, and it's an incredible story if you want to get into it. I mean, I was sponsored by Hankook at the time. It's almost like a movie, this thing. I was sponsored by Hankook at the time, and then Hankook Ireland, we'll say, they arranged or tried to arrange unsuccessfully for Hankook US to give me tires when I got to the States. So when I got there, as far as I was concerned, that deal was done, as Hankook Ireland told me that I would be supplied tires when I get there. When I got there, I just walking around the paddock, there was some Hankook cars, and I got speaking to them, and they pointed me in the direction of the Hankook representative, and he said, "I've never heard of you. I'm not giving any tires." So I was like, "Oh shit, here we are, thousands of miles from home, and I have no tires." So luckily, one of my friends who had been to Irwindale the year before just to see the American scene or whatever, he had spoken to Vaughn Gittin before, and he went up to him again and said, "Vaughn, this is our situation. Can we purchase some tires from Falcon?" So Falcon, luckily, they sent a guy who actually, I don't know if you know who Jonathan Bradford is, but he would now be the team manager of Falcon. But at the time, he was just started with Falcon. So that team manager at the time sent him to go get tires from the warehouse at like 11 p.m. at night for me. And he was like, he wasn't very pleased about that. He thought his day was finished. So they sent him, and he got tires for me. He actually ended up becoming my boss like 5 years down the line. But so yeah, they gave me a good deal on tires. Me, my mom, my dad, my brother, we had all our money we spent on getting 16 tires from Falcon at the time. So that was all the money we had with us in America. So we had nothing left for the rest of the trip. And we bought the tires. And then as the competition went on, I had to remove the Hankook stickers from my car, and I had to put Falcon stickers on. And then as the competition went on, we kept ending up with I'll never forget it, as a 19-year-old kid, I ended up with 4 or 5 Falcon Umbrella Girls, because I was the last Falcon driver left in the competition.
That's amazing.
So I think the boss of Falcon was there at the time, and he was pretty impressed. So we put a deal together. So it was the stars aligned on that one. It was something that, if we blew a motor or something, well, then it was all over, and we would have had to pay to ship the car back to Ireland and back to the grind, so to speak. But it all worked out anyway.
So I have a little bit of a personal question. No pressure if you don't want to answer this, but what were you doing for work at the time? I mean, what was your life like before, as D1 approached you and asked you if you wanted to send the car to the US?
Yeah, well, I was a mechanic in my dad's garage. Like, I was a mechanic there, so I've been qualified, just regular mechanic, and it was just what you guys would call a mom and pop garage. It was just not a main dealership or nothing, just a small one doing, local community services and stuff in a small village. So it was nothing major, but yeah, my dad had a business doing that, and I was a mechanic, just a regular mechanic who just wanted to build a race car for himself, a drift car. But my dad raced cars for, like, since I was in nappies. Like, all I've ever done is watch my dad racing cars, and he had probably about 30 or 40 Mark II Escorts over the space of 15, 20 years. So all I ever did as a child was watch Mark II Escorts going sideways. So it was pretty inevitable that I would actually go sideways when I had the chance, if you know what I mean.
And what kind of racing did he do?
He did what we would call hot rod in Ireland, which is totally different to what you guys call a hot rod. So it's like stock car racing, but in fields. So like dirt track, dirt oval in fields, but it would be in a different field every Sunday around the country, and there would be all sorts of clubs with different drivers. So there would have been, I mean, it was crazy popular back in the day, pre pre-cell phones, pre-everything. It was kind of like, the races came to town, and whatever village or town it was near, they all came to see these cars. You know what I mean? So they were like 2-liter RS 2000 Mark II Escorts. They were pretty spectacular going around the track, to be fair. So that's what he did every Sunday, and I just tagged along as a kid, and it was a pretty decent childhood, to be fair.
Tell us about the Falcon sponsorship. So when you started FD in 2007, what was the first car you ran?
Well, it was the Corolla, which is actually, as I sit in my office now, it is 30 feet the other side of the wall here. I have it up on a container, so I have like shipping containers inside my workshop, and I have that Corolla still in the Falcon colors on top of one of the containers, and then next to it I have a Black Limited Truno, and that's next to it as well. So the two kind of showpieces that I have left. But yeah, I mean, just from the Irwindale experience and from doing so well, we signed a deal with Falcon to do Formula D. Then I podiumed like in Atlanta, which was my second event, which was kind of hard to believe. I should have won it, looking back, but I made a mistake in the final. But I got second place in my second event, which kind of made everyone take notice, I think. So I ended up winning Rookie of the Year, which I was very proud of, because I was pure a D1 kind of fanboy, so to speak. I loved D1 at the time. It had Ueo in the 4AG Corolla, Kazam and Nomura. They were maybe the glory days of D1 for me, which was a bit more old school and a bit easier to understand than it is now. I watch if I watch D1 now, I don't even know what's happening, to be honest. They're gone all computerized. It looks, I can't make out what's happening, but they were the glory days. And so we did well, but I beat Mickey, Ryuji Mickey, if you remember him. He was D1 champion in the Apex RX-7. And he did Formula D the same year I did, and I beat him in the Rookie of the Year. Like, I beat him by an absolutely massive margin, if you know what I mean. So it was really, it was just something I couldn't believe, that we were going so well. But all those guys were really, the D1 guys that I watched on DVDs for so long. They were all just amazing. When we finally met them, they couldn't be more supportive, and
that's great,
and everything. It was a dream come true, really, at the time.
What do you attribute to this success on your first year out with a car that you brought over?
To be honest, I started racing like oval racing on dirt track and on pavement when I was 11. And then when the drifting started, I was about 18. And from 7 years of pack racing in the oval racing and stuff, when it came to, because drifting, when it started here, it was a real young guys thing, if you know what I mean. So Skylines and Sylvias, and we started with all street cars going to just organized events, and guys were very interested in it, and they were able to drive, no doubt about it. But when it came to being close to another car and stuff, I think they might have been a little bit out of their comfort zone, whereas I just lived for pack racing and I guess, certain level like car control from having oval racing cars and stuff. So when it came to that, and you're a teenager, you don't really give a fuck if you crash or you don't, you're just
death, right?
made of rubber, a crash on us, it just has no effect on you whatsoever. I've crashed so many cars, it has no effect on you. And I almost, like, to a point, enjoyed crashing cars, just putting yourself in that danger, and shit could go wrong, and if it did go wrong, you barrel roll down the track, and sure, who cares? So it was just that thing of not being afraid to, like, stick the nose in somewhere, just used to oval racing. And I think it kind of gave me a big head start when it came to proper tandem drifting. It's kind of hard to believe. I feel so fucking old now talking to you that I remember going drifting and there was no tandem allowed. It's that fucking long ago,
Wow. No tandem allowed.
Yeah.
I remember our organizations out here allowed tandem without any cages at first. And that eventually changed, but it was very lax when we started.
Yeah, and I think even, we're not that old, but it was even almost a different time. Now, I don't think they'd even dream of doing it because someone would probably claim off them and own half the circuit if they left them out without a cage. It's a different time now. Like, we did a lot of street stuff too, so I guess, okay, kids driving on the street, drifting on the street is bad, but shit happens. You do it, your kids do it, and that's it. We have no places to go in this country. Still don't, like, Ireland still has one racing track, believe it or not, for the whole country.
Wow.
And from one racing track, I think we make the best drifters in the whole fucking world. Like, so can you imagine if we actually had places to practice? It would be very helpful. But you look at the likes of James Dean, and even Dwayne McKeever is busting onto the scene now in Europe as well, and you have the Shanahans and stuff. It's just a conveyor belt of talent coming out of this country, which is hard to explain, but you should see the commitment that these guys have to it. It's different to an awful lot of places. You'd see just how much they commit to achieving their goal and getting better. And I guess I was the same too back in the day. You just do whatever it takes to get where you want to be.
Tell us about that right-hand drive Saturn Sky. I think for me, I know you in FD most for that Saturn Sky.
That came about in 2008. So we had such a good year in 2007 with with overachieving or whatever, when we were going to US tracks that I'd never seen the tracks before and everything, and we were doing so well, So Falcon were pretty excited about the whole situation. And back then we had a huge team. So we had, I'm sure you remember the discount tire cars, we'll say the dealer cars. So we had discount tire, we had Sears, which was me. And did we have another, what was the blue crowd? I'm trying to remember what the blue one was. Anyway, there was another one that I think Seigo Yamamoto had a blue RX-8 the first year, and it was some other tire dealer. But so the Saturn came about. There was a guy called Ian Stewart who actually owns ASD. I don't know if he would have built JR's Mustangs and Justin Pollock's Mustang and all that stuff. So he got involved, and he wanted to build a car for me to drive. Falcon just had to pay for it, so to speak. So then he put together, he would have been a kind of a North Carolina influenced Kiwi is what he was, but he would have been very influenced by NASCAR, sprint cars, all this stuff that from a JDM point of view, we would know fuck all about, quick change rear ends. Quick change rear ends, G-forces, sprint car motors, never even heard of these things. So he put together this Saturn Sky over the off season, and then it had to be right hand drive. So it was some custom rack and stuff in it and all this. And it was a scary machine to step out of a SR20 Corolla, but with a stock SR20 in it with a HKS turbo on it, making 340 flywheel horsepower into an 800 horsepower sprint car engined Saturn. And the car was basically undrivable for, I'd say, a season and a half. I'd say basically the car was undrivable until it got sway bars. It's just the bottom line. That was it. I'll never forget it. The thing was so scary to drive. And we finally, if you remember, the Red Bull World Championships on the docks in Long Beach was end of 08, I think. And we made a change to the car for that, and it transformed the car. Like, we changed the rear roll center in the car, and it just transformed the car. And that was the biggest progress we made in the thing, just doing this change. Just, the car was so nervous. The Kappa platform, same as the Salsa. So it's double wishbone front, double wishbone rear. So you can do so much with it, And it was just that one change. I'll never forget it. We qualified, I don't know, fourth, I think, in that event at 114 mile an hour entry speed, coming down into the docks, and it was just a scary thing to drive. But from there, it got better and better, and then it got to a point where we were a championship contender every year with it, you know.
Why did they pick a Saturn Sky in the first place? Was it like because it was technically more capable, or was there some kind of, you know, like political reason or Saturn backing?
Yeah, I would think like probably I think the same way now as he would as an engineer. You would look at the platform and go, "Fuck me!" You know, this thing is double wishbone all around. It weighs absolutely nothing. It's got loads of room between the rails for a big V8 in it. It's basically a racing car, like anything, you know, what you could want from a racing car. It has it on the street. They're a beautiful little chassis for competition. So, and it was new at the time. I think the Solstice in the Sky just came out, so it was something modern. And yeah, I think, you know, there was talks of GM getting involved and stuff. Drifting is, I don't know, was it even bigger back then than it is now? I mean, we had, you know, you had Rhys Millen with Red Bull, and he had full GM support with his Solstice and his Pontiac GTO that Dai Yoshihara drove, and they were sponsored by Bridgestone, and you'd Hankook and you'd Cooper and you'd Falcon. It was, you know, there was like 10 tire manufacturers in the series, and there was factory-backed cars, which is something that has totally gone away, unfortunately. But yeah, it was just a modern chassis, and I think this was all pre the FD weight rule, so there was no weight rule. So I think that was a huge, you know, I think the thing was 2,500 pounds when it was built first, and that was a huge plus point for the chassis. You know, it was so light.
I think that's really interesting because that car has received like zero attention over here. I think even when it came out, like people just didn't really care about those cars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
100%.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear from your perspective about how capable, you know, that chassis was.
Yeah, I mean, as a time attack car, no, it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit short and stuff, but as a time attack car, it's a great car. It's basically 2 frame rails and a central tub. You know, it's like a Corvette basically. It's like a mini Corvette. Is exactly what the car is like. So it's a great little chassis, especially for time attack and racing and stuff. But we never got it here. It's a left-hand drive only, so you could get one in Germany as an Opel GT, but we never got the Solstice over here. And yeah, I think, look, whatever, Saturn was an absolute, you know, grandfather's brand that was crap, and then Pontiac is gone. So I mean, it's just. Yeah, economics came and just got rid of the whole lot of them, I think.
So doing a small discussion with the team yesterday, a lot of us were kind of shocked. 2014, your last year, what made you decide to leave Formula Drift?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to still do Formula Drift, there's no doubt about it, but we knew Falcon were pulling out at the end of 2014, you know, the factory Falcon team, we'll say. We knew that was coming to an end, and just like Di and Justin and whatever, you know, there was the opportunity there to put a program together. You had to put your own program together, etc. And I just, you know, from working for Falcon and being such a good team with a huge budget that had a person for everything, and like, from what I could see, you could put together to do your own program. It was a little bit on a wing and a prayer, if you know what I mean. Like 1, 2 blown motors in the year put you straight into negative equity, so to speak, you know. So it was a difficult one. Formula D it's a judge sport, and like any judge sport, it's very subjective, and it's quite difficult to. The motivation there can be lacking if you do something. I did it for 8 years. 8 years is long enough to do anything in life, nearly. And I was like, geez, if I can't put together a really high budget program here where I'll be comfortable and I'll be able to focus on my driving and not have to mini manage a load of bullshit to do with staff and car and parts and everything, then I don't think I'll do it. And that's basically what it came down to. And in one sense, you know, I think I made the correct decision. In one sense, I think I made the incorrect decision. I would have loved to have kept doing it. You know, to be honest, the biggest thing I miss from it is the guys I had around me. You know, the team and the guys that worked in the car. We had a great relationship, and it was seriously good times to look back on. You know, but on the other side, like Di and Justin as an example, their programs have kind of suffered. You know, I don't think they've been as successful as they were with Falcon. Certainly, they haven't been as successful in the first 2 seasons of starting their own program. And I could see, I think that, you know, running the whole thing really takes you away from concentrating on your driving. And that's not something that I wanted to do without having a major program that I could put someone in charge of doing this, put someone in charge of doing that, have everyone paid, no bullshit, and relax, drive the car and get the most out of it. It's basically, I don't know, I was spoiled with Falcon. You know, that it was my job to drive the car. It was my job to get the most out of the car and get the results. And then running the whole thing myself, I didn't think I could put together a big enough budget to be happy doing it.
Do you think a lot of like the factory backing and the tire companies, do you think a lot of them pulled out because of the Great Recession, or was it just a reduced interest in drifting in general?
The Great Recession is always a good excuse, you know. I mean, you always see that, you know, when the economy gives a downturn, or your last quarter in your company wasn't as good as the previous 3, it's very easy just to, you know, okay, we're going stopping because things are on the down. But I was always disappointed that with the support we had from manufacturers at the time and all the tire manufacturers and things like that, I mean, I think that a better job could have been done towards getting the thing on TV and trying to make it, you know, trying to give us figures for viewership and things like that. Not just a 30-minute highlight program on some station that I've never heard of, you know, something substantial to try and get this. But the problem is the show itself is not capable of going on TV, you know. So that's a big problem with drifting for me, not just Formula D, but everywhere. It's not capable of going on TV. And I mean, no sport can get to the level we want it to get to without TV. It's just a fact.
Why do you say
you need the advertising.
Why do you say it's not capable for going on TV?
Well, Formula D goes on for about fucking 13 hours. Like,
I see.
I mean, we watch it. We try and watch it over here. We're 8 hours behind. It could be 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun coming up by the time James Dean wins the final. You know, we have to watch James. He always gets to the fucking top 4. So we get no sleep watching the fucking thing. Like, it's unquantifiable is the problem with drifting, except over, like, we've taken steps in Europe to change it. But Formula D, totally, like, you cannot tell me how long the top 8 will take, because there could be 4 competition timeouts where he gets as much time as he wants to fix his car because the other fella ran into him. You just can't say, like, it could be minimum of 30 minutes to do it, or it could be maximum of 4 hours to do the top 8. Like, it's fucking crazy.
That's interesting.
So that product isn't capable of going on TV live. You might see one battle on live TV, and you ain't going to get a slot on live TV past 75 minutes. So from that point of view, I was always disappointed that it wasn't pushed that way. You know, we all wanted to be, as drivers at the time, we all wanted to be, and you saw the drivers leave, like Faust, Millen, Hubinet, the big names we had. They all went and did rallycross, like it was on ESPN. You know, that's the bottom line. They didn't do it. They didn't leave because they didn't like drifting. Drifting was the thing at that time. It was the next sport. You know, it was supposed to be at X Games. That deal fell through. You know, it was the thing, the next thing to happen. And those guys were big names in what we were doing. You know, Faust obviously went on to do what he does. You know, he's been very successful. But it would have been nice for him to be able to put a drift program together that made sense for his sponsors, but it just didn't. No, that's no one's criticism, but I just think you have to have a product to get on TV. So, like, Drift Masters here in Europe has no 5-minute rule. and you have 1 minute to get to the line or you're disqualified. And that's it. It's live on TV in Poland. And there's no bullshit in your live TV. It's like X Games, Rallycross, and everything like that. You've 75 minutes to run the Rallycross, and that is it. 75 minutes of ESPN slotted time. I don't even know if it's on it anymore, but at the time, years ago, it was. And that was it. So, yeah, I'd be all for no 5 minutes. No, I mean, look, shit goes wrong, the cars are highly stressed and everything, but if you can't get a car to last 30-second run, you might as well fix what's wrong with it, So 5 minutes, there should be no 5 minutes, there should be no competition timeouts. It's just, it doesn't do anything for the sport. When you've more downtime than you have on track time, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but there are some large gaps, aren't there, when you're watching the event or competing in it?
Oh my God, unbelievable gaps. And it is like, and there's only so many times you can watch the same 4 ads as well. Before you actually go. It's true. It's not a criticism. It's just, well, I guess it is a small criticism. But everyone is doing the best they can to do their show. I'm not pointing a finger or doing anything like that. It's just, from my perspective, it's hard when you know the ads word for word and you can recite them as they go. That's not a good sign, and it's just something that makes people switch off. And in this day and age, people have a tiny attention span, so they have their phone, they have their laptop, they'll go and do something else. You got to capture their attention, and if you keep having huge breaks with nothing to fill them except ads, then that don't work. Like, I can't even watch like US TV. Like from here, we could have a 30-minute program on TV and there would be 2 commercial breaks, whereas in the US there might be 10 commercial breaks for a 30-minute program. So something like that, it really gets to me when I see so many commercials for something. So it's just I don't know, I'd run it totally differently and a bit more in line with what we do over here. I'm not saying everything is perfect on this end either, far from it, but it would have been nice at the time when we had the manufacturer support and we had the tire manufacturer support, and Falcon had 10 cars in the team at the time. Hankook had a full team of cars. You had teams versus teams, whereas now I would say you have no teams. Have you? None?
I think it's all like privateers at this point.
Yeah, it's just someone has enough sponsors to have a program, correct? There is no teams. There's no manufacturer teams. There is no teams. There's nothing. Autohaus, I guess, is close to being a sponsored team with 2 paid drivers, so to speak. But yeah, other than that, you have JR who has 2 cars, but that's just on his, it's on his initiative, so to speak. There's no paid drivers driving for teams that own cars, which is unfortunate. Like, you can call it, it's professional drifting because, the guys put in huge work to have their own team and they have lots of sponsors and they've done a great job, but unfortunately, it's not like professional motorsport, if you know what I'm saying.
So, Darren, one thing with Grant and I being Corolla guys, I honestly see you as a Corolla guy first, and then I think about FD second, just because we're so I don't know, obsessed with the culture and the chassis. So one thing that I've personally really enjoyed seeing the progression of is your companies. So MCN Sport, DMAC, and then Group-d. Talk about some of your companies.
Yeah, well, they're all they're all the same thing under different names, but Group-d is the current one. And yeah, we've just been involved always, when we had our success with the Corolla chassis, we had people love the Corolla, it's an underdog car. No matter how much power you put under the hood, it's still an underdog. And people love that kind of shit. And we just gained a following with it. And then we gained, I was doing stuff to my car that worked and other people wanted it. So it kind of grew from there, as any, I guess, business does it like that. But now Group-d is going along nicely, and we've got some some really nice stuff here. But the current Corolla we're building here in the workshop right now is probably our best one to date. It's got a load of trick stuff in it. So we've got some plans for Group D to take it to the next level. And interestingly enough, this Corolla is for a customer. It's downstairs now. I can actually see the top of it out through the window here. And it is going to be a tribute car to the Need for Speed car. So it's going to be in the black and white chevron livery, we'll say. But yeah, so it's going to look quite similar, and he wanted to do it as a tribute to that car that you have in that magazine there. So that's interesting. But yeah, Group D is committed to keeping the chassis alive, you know, doing parts, quality parts for them, you know, stuff that, you know, trying to keep away from a lot of the copy stuff around, and trying to innovate with parts for them. We've a lot of stuff on the drawing board. We've a lot of stuff that we want to get through. This one downstairs has a complete custom front steering kit for angle and custom crossmember and everything. It's probably the most developed Corolla in the world to date. Like, this car should be really, really special. And from that, then we'll hopefully be making a line of products to allow other people to have the same thing. But yeah, that's what we like to do, and we want to do the same thing with the Silvias and stuff, and get into that market a bit more, and just innovating and changing things and making new products. You know, that's kind of what we live for. You know, doing that kind of thing. It's easy to go with the crowd, and there's a lot of companies around. But if we can, you know, improve things and modify parts to better suit people to outperform other things, then that's what we live for. It's kind of the engineering side of it and the theory side of it that really kind of keeps us clicking here, rather than just another workshop, you know.
I looked at the website recently, and there was a couple parts that really intrigued me. So the S chassis rear end mounting kit, and then you guys have a lot of like serious competition stuff, like the tube front end that's bolt on, the large diff tunnel that's welded in.
Yeah.
So my question is the Corolla still like a popular competitive chassis to warrant having these like competition grade parts on in Ireland?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, good question. I mean, the Corolla is starting to get to be expensive. Like, it's starting to get kind of classic-y here. There's people asking absolutely fucking crazy money for really clean ones, and it's mad. But you still have so many chassis that always have been a rally car, always have been a race car. And we actually do a lot of that fabrication stuff into the US, where, believe it or not, you guys can get Corollas cheap. You mightn't think that you mightn't think that from living there, but they're way cheaper than they are over here. So we also did an unbelievable amount of Japanese importing, you know. So we took so many Corollas out of Japan to Ireland. It was just ridiculous. So in the time of the what we would call the Celtic Tiger, which was when the economy was absolutely flying, you had all these JDM car import companies all set up by many young guys that were into drifting, and the amount of Skylines and Silvias and Chasers and Corollas that we imported into this country is absolutely crazy. Like, they are everywhere, and you know, we're right-hand drive, so we're just totally blessed that we can bring them in that way. So I think there's always a market there for that Corolla stuff. Maybe when it becomes a more expensive car, there might even be more of a market for that kind of stuff that is quality, and that you move to a different demographic, that, you know, a Corolla owner will have to have more money because they are getting very expensive, you know. So it's something that is interesting to see what way it's going to go. I mean, the S13 and S14 subframe mounting kit, I mean, they're very, very popular. It's something we've spent a lot of time at perfecting, and just to get all the geometry right, basically. And we've seen it done so many times here in this country and stuff, and it's it's been done incorrectly, and we've had test beds of different subframe heights and everything going on to see how the car reacts, and it's something that we know if you get it from us and it mounts where it mounts, that your car will be transformed. And of course, a 240 rear end is cheap as chips. So, the 240 stuff is everywhere. So it's so cheap. And then, a standard 240 axles and rear end, you're very unlikely to break that stuff with a Corolla, So it just makes it an extremely viable option. We don't get the Celica Super rear end over here, so we don't have that option. And I believe they're probably getting quite rare with you guys and quite expensive. So a lot of guys are turning to us for the independent rear, and of course it's independent, so you have toe control, camber control, and everything. So it's a good one. I'd advise you to try it if you can, and see what you think. We have this distribute car, as I touched on. It's fully done in the rear. It has a Winters quick change, the whole lot in it. I mean, this Corolla it has a G-Force GSR in it and a Winters quick change, and it has the 1,000 horsepower drive shaft shop axles in it. It is a serious piece of kit,
I'm glad you brought up the rear end swaps, because yes, you're right. The Celica Super rear end is obscenely expensive for what it is at this point. So a lot of guys stateside are actually going Ford 8.8, so going domestic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other straight axle that's a popular swap in Ireland?
Not really. So my Corolla that I built in 2006 had a Nissan Vanette axle on it. Do you guys even know what a Nissan Vanette is?
No idea.
Yeah, no idea.
No idea. Do you know what a Toyota Light Ace is?
Light Ace.
Oh, it's the van, right?
It's a small van that would be too small for America, but it's a small van. Like, yeah, you get fuck all in it in America,
yeah.
but over here, we got small stuff over here. So it's Nissan's version of that van. So it's exactly that size, and it came 4x114, and it has an axle on it with an 8-inch rear end in it. So I put one of them onto my Corolla when I built it, and the worst thing I ever did was tell people what axle I had in it, because now you can't fucking get them anymore, because every drifter fella just bought them all, and now we're totally out of them, and they make, like, for what they are, they make stupid money here now. There is no live axle answer. Simple as that. There is none. And then anything that you make go on is too wide or wider than the original one, and you lose your sexy wheel offset, and it's just a pain in the ass. No, I mean, the Silvia rear end is way wider than the stock Corolla axle, so you're always going to have that issue. But it's one, unfortunately. I mean, we sell quite a lot of the Weir 28mm kits here, so shout out to them. But that's a good option, but you're still struggling with your 6.7-inch crown wheel. How much can you put through it, So there is no answer on the live axle front. We don't get the Ford 8.8 either, but 8.8 is too big anyway. It's going to hit the floor in the center. Simple as that.
You know what? Speaking of FD, I completely forgot until now. Do you have any Taka Iono stories for us?
I remember Taka, when I went to FD, he had the Hasselgren normally aspirated motor in it. And I remember just being like absolutely blown away by that thing. Like, I put an SR20 into my Corolla because I couldn't afford to build a 480. That's the only reason. Because I just wanted to be a Wayo, And no, putting the SR20 in was the best thing I ever did. So, because it just made the car so much more competitive. But Taka had that all motor in, and of course it wasn't, it was never going to be competitive in the horsepower wars, but my God, did it make a good noise.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize he had a non-turbo version of the Hasselgren engine until I came across some grainy video of him just hauling ass on a straightaway doing Mongees, and it's like, okay, that's not a turbo.
Yeah. He had the NA version of it first, but it was, totally all out. I don't know. Do you remember the Like, do you remember the old D1 days in Irwindale where the Corollas didn't have to drift the bank?
Oh, that's right. They just drove
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing to even think of, but you watch it and the Corolla drifts coming out of the bank and through the transition and into the final corner. That was perfectly allowed, where they made
exceptions, right?
Yeah, they made exceptions for horsepower then, which is a funny thing to even say now, but the Japanese D1 boys, they did, so that went away pretty quick, and it ended up he ended up turbocharging it then, but it lost its heart then when it was turbocharged, didn't it? It was just, and it made some stupid horsepower when they put a turbo on it, because of course, just like a Honda motor, when the head flows so much and so well, you just put any boost in it and it makes silly power. And it was a sequential RX-7 gearbox in that at the time as well. It was pretty trick, but I think he climbed the wall a couple of times in Irwindale with that thing. It was a little bit of a big Corolla. So yeah, Taka was cool though. We all got on and Hiro Samida as well was there at the time, and he had like a chaser and stuff with Falcon. That is going back. That is going all the way back to 07, But they were good times, man. I mean, they were. It was cheap, so to speak, and you didn't need that much power to do what we were doing. Whereas now, it's absolutely crazy. Like, the amount of power you need to do Formula D is just unbelievable. I don't know. It's. I mean, you're talking what, 1,000? You have to have 1,000 now. So it's just, I don't know. It's gone totally off the wall altogether.
One common problem, I think, worldwide with motorsports is actually the youth isn't as interested in motorsports as we were in our era. And one thing that's a common question I ask a lot of the motorsports drivers on the podcast is, where do you see the state of drifting right now? And then how can we support it? Like, keep helping the sport grow and keep renewing interest in it.
Yeah, you're dead right. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, motorsport viewership is down everywhere. I mean, drifting over here is the only motorsport that gets spectators on a track. There is no spectators for any other motorsport in this country, basically. Now, rallying is hugely popular here, and shitloads of people go to see it, but, there's no quantifiable amount of how many people are there. You don't, it's a fucking country road. You're not charging people to go in to see it. But when you have a motor racing event, drifting is the only thing that has any capture of the youth at all. And that's something we've done really, really well over here. And I kind of put it down to here as, like, we have a feeder system for our championship, and a pro level car is not that unattainable to the kids, if you know what I'm saying. And also, of course, with the drifting, we have so many street car versions of the cars we actually use on the track, so it totally relates that way. It's not a Mustang or something that kids don't drive or whatever. So that's why it's like that. I think, like, in the US, and even now, it's very hard. I don't see any feeder system of making a competitive top championship, if you know what I mean. Like, if you take FD, an awful lot of the guys close to the top have been there for 10 fucking years. There is no new young guys knocking on people's door for podiums, as far as I can see anyway. And that is put down to, I mean, to do FD, you'd want to have $1 million fucking dollars. Like, it is, you need 1,000 horsepower car that weighs 3,000 pounds, and you need to go out and beat the top guys. Now, there's always room for an absolute elitism, top of the world championship, for sure. But the thing is just so unattainable. I don't see young people being attached to it to get to enter. and get involved. You know what I mean? They might love to go see it and watch it, and it's spectacular. But like going watching drag racing, like, you're not going to go out the next day and try and buy a top fuel funny car. You know, it's just totally unattainable. It's totally unattainable, and an awful lot of motorsport is like that. You know, when you look at the top end, it doesn't relate no longer to what the kids have on the street and things like that. So it is suffering worldwide like that. But I think, you know, Pro 2 seems to be such a huge step down from Pro 1. And, you know, how many Pro 2 guys have gone and taken on the Pro 1 guys and been successful? You know, it's a very difficult one that you don't seem to feed in many top level US drivers. Like, who has come through the ranks? Can you guys tell me who has come through the ranks in the last 5 years that is now at the top?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but even Pro 2 is going to need like 500-600 horsepower. So just that step alone is already a big jump, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a pro car in Ireland, like, don't get me wrong, is going to be 500, 600, 700 horsepower if you want. But we have a slightly easier way of getting into it. Like, your Pro 2 car can be exactly the same over here, so to speak. So you're like your semi-pro car over here can be exactly the same. And we had a feeder series for so long that we had like Pro 2 on a Saturday, and then the top 3 minimum up to the top 6 on the Saturday that finished at the top, I would say, in Pro 2. They got to go to the Sunday and go against the Pro 1 guys. So they always improved every event. The Pro 2 guys always improved. They got to go head to head with the top guys and improved and learned and got better and got better and got better. And next year they were all Pro 1, if you know what I mean. And it just developed so many drivers over here that ended up going all the way. Whereas the 2 series don't cross at all in the US, do they?
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, but they don't cross. So they don't. You can't do both, I don't think. You know, so and plus you just, yeah, I don't agree with the weight rule and things like that. You know, I just think it's making, like, for us 3 guys, you know, the weight rule there's never going to be another Corolla in Formula D, you know? No, look, I mean, that's not the end of the world either. You know, we would love to see it, but if, like we spoke about earlier, if it went on TV and manufacturers got involved, then there ain't going to be a fucking Corolla anyway. You know, they want a new Corolla. They want a new Corolla, but that would be a great problem to have. If you had to use brand new Corollas like Asbos or whatever, then that would be a great problem to have. But, like, just there is very little manufacturers about. There's Toyota and Ford, I guess, but there doesn't seem to be, you know, they don't seem to be knocking the door down to come into the sport, you know. So I just like, one thing that gets to me a bit is, like, you will struggle to have 32 cars in Formula D for a top 32, you know, and that's a weird thing to watch, if you know what I'm saying. And it doesn't help the competition, I don't think, if, like, some rounds you can have 4 buy runs for the best 4 guys from qualifying. And I mean, what kind of, you know, when they started the top 32, they did it to mix things up because the top guys had to go against someone who qualified low, and any fucking thing could happen when the 2 cars go on track. You know what I mean? And it created drama and things like that. And cool, it created drama, and drama is good for the sport, you know. But now there's a top 32 and the top 4 guys get a bye. There's no point in having a fucking top 32 because they're already in the 16, and you have to watch one car go around to do its bye. You have to watch that 4 times. I don't think it does anything for the show, you know. It's just an anti-climax. You're not going to watch one car go around. That's not drifting. Like, so it's, yeah, I just think it's gone a little bit, you know, it's gone a little bit unachievable for, if we get back to the original question, I'm probably gone totally off topic, but it's just a little bit unachievable for the young people to get involved in so many motorsports that they might like, which is unfortunate. We don't have that problem here with drifting. You know, kids get, like, the age group of drifting in this country is fucking young as shit. Like, I'm a dinosaur over here, total dinosaur. Whereas I'd be younger than a shitload of FD guys, you know. But like, I'm old as fuck over here when I go around the paddock. There's fucking 15-year-olds, there's 14-year-olds, there's 16-year-olds everywhere driving 400 horsepower Sylvias, and their parents are paying for it, and they love it, and they can go all the way to Pro 1, top fucking 4, you know. And that works because they get hooked and they stay at it, you know. Whereas I don't see any young drivers in FD.
Darren, we're just about at our 1 hour mark, and I totally want to respect your time. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to talk with us. I mean, this conversation has been totally enlightening. Like, I can't believe like the knowledge bombs you dropped during this short hour.
Thanks very much. I got to go back to welding a manifold on a 2J BMW.
Oh,
That's what I was doing when you called me.
Yeah. And then also, I absolutely love the few DMAC parts I have on my personal Corolla, and we would love to see more of your parts stateside also.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm eyeballing that anti-roll bar mount as well.
We've been talking about that internally recently. You know, it's something we do get a lot. We send a lot of product to the US, and appreciate that from you guys being interested in the stuff. But it's something we've spoken about, and I guess, you know, as we expand, we really need to look into like a dealership with a store over there, you know, so that our stuff can be made very readily available to people. As I said, we have stuff on the drawing board. We have things coming down the line that are going to be really good for the chassis, you know, moving forward. So that's on the list of things to do. You know, it's the right way to go. We do great shipping rates, and people are very happy with the speed of our service and things like that. But I mean, moving forward, I think we need to look into supporting the community there with actual stock based in the US.
Well, if there's anything we can do to help, we'd love to help you with that.
Yeah, you guys are definitely on the top of the list there to start the discussion with. Now we've got some stuff to do internally, and of course we have this brilliant fucking COVID year going on, which everything is up in the air, and we don't know what's happening, and we've no events planned or nothing. It's been a you know how it goes. So it's something we're going to look into, and we'll be in touch with a few people, I'm sure, looking to get that done at some stage.
Well, I appreciate it again, Darren, and we'll let you get back to work. But again, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. It was great.
No problem, guys. It's been my pleasure, and hopefully we can speak again sometime.